Okay, we are live. Derrick, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad at all, thank you. All right, we're just going to give it a couple of minutes as we wait for people to make their way into the stream. You're out in California. What's your? I hate to start off with this boring question, but this is how you know I'm filling. How's the weather out there?
It's actually pretty rainy. We got hit with a pretty nasty thunderstorm, but it kind of just came and went. It's not really like it's done now, and it's going to be sunny for the rest of the week. So that's kind of how it's been, though. It's been like that, where it's just constant. Like we'll get hit with like a week of rain, and then it'll be sunny for 3 weeks, and then week of rain, and then sunny for 2 days, and that So it's been like that for quite some time now.
Okay, fair. Like I said, if I'm talking about the weather, I'm either really bored, which I'm not, or I'm filling time, which I am. So let's get into it, and people will join. This is at a crazy time, and from an East Coast perspective, you're like, hey, what are you talking about? I just finished dinner,
I
probably.
know. It's the beauty of living on the West Coast. It's
It
great.
really is. So I am Keith Whittier. I'm the movie reviewer for Ottawa Life magazine. I am thrilled to be joined by Derrick Murray, who is the film critic for NerdBot, and we'll get your information out there so people can go and check out your stuff because it's fantastic. Now, we met last September at the Toronto International Film Festival as people who tend to meet at the film festival waiting in line for a movie, as we got there ridiculously early as we tend to do, and we just started talking shop, just started talking about some of the different films that we've seen. And one of the things that really endeared me to you is the fact that a lot of these quirky, interesting films that I feel like not a lot of my friends have seen, you had seen. So right off the bat, we were able to share a dialogue in regards to that, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
No, and it was great. And then we saw the movie, and then we went to lunch afterwards,
yeah,
and we've been friends ever since.
yeah,
So
100%.
and it is genuinely one of the best parts of festivals. Like, yes, being able to just see a ton of movies and immerse yourself in cinema and do Q&As and do interviews, all of that is great, but it's one of these rare instances where you just get to be surrounded by like-minded people, people that love movies as much as you do, people that want to talk about movies as much as you do. So it's a really cool experience. I feel very blessed that I got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the Academy Awards. I think we're pretty good at predicting, and we're going to find out because we're going to drop our predictions in a moment. But holistically, when I think of the Academy Awards, and I know it's different for different people, there are a lot of people who look forward to the whole red carpet and they want to get there or to watch the coverage on E or whatever network covers it, and the whole, what are you wearing? For myself, one of the things that bless you, for myself, one of the things that I've always appreciated is the opening monologue. And I'm always interested to see how the host sets the tone for the evening. And for me, I don't think there's ever been a better host than Billy Crystal. So right off the rip, who would be some of like your favorite Oscar hosts?
I mean, Billy Crystal is kind of the pinnacle. You just don't get better than that. Yeah. I do think that I do actually think that Seth MacFarlane did a good job.
Okay.
I tend to enjoy his brand of humor. I feel like he did a pretty good job of kind of, because really when you have hosts, the main goal is, yes, they need to be funny in their opening monologue, but for the most part, they need to just move the show along. Like that's really what they need to do. So I appreciated Seth's short-lived experiences. But one of the things I liked about him is that he did kind of go right up to that line, put his foot over it a little bit, and then just kind of let the show move forward. So I mean, look, Apex Mountain, it's Billy Crystal. You just can't beat that. I do enjoy Jimmy Fallon. I do think that some of his bits run a little long. I think he takes
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel. I'm sorry, I can't.
There are a lot of Jimmys. There are a lot of Jimmys. Yeah,
I can't stand Jimmy Fallon. I can't even believe that came out of my mouth. I'm sorry. We don't need a host laughing through the whole Oscars. Yeah. But no, I think Jimmy Kimmel actually does a pretty good job. I don't know that he'd be my favorite host, but just in the way that the Oscars have kind of changed and how they've tried to just kind of shift and mold themselves into being a watchable show. I would argue that if Jimmy Kimmel was actually hosting last year, I would venture to say, one, the incident wouldn't happen. And two, I think he probably could have recovered from that instance, from the slap much better than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because there was a dazement that kind of just, just permeated the whole like things were missed drastically. And a lot of that is on the host part of not being able to kind of recover the show. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Kimmel did host last year, and I know what you're talking about in terms of it feels like the slap was just yesterday, but believe it or not, it was actually 2 years ago, which blows my mind.
Man, I know.
That's because it was 2 years ago. But you're 100% right in the sense of, so considering it's on the it's on the ABC network, he's got his talk show. Most of these guests, or most of these nominees, excuse me, have been guests on his show. I think they're playing it safe by having him. This is going to be his fourth time hosting. The Oscars have changed in the sense of now people, it's like the time crunch. It's like, okay, let's just get it over with. I don't mind a long show if it's a well-produced show.
Yes.
But again, it's hit and miss. So we'll see. But very excited about this. So for those tuning in, first of all, thank you for joining, whether you're West Coast, East Coast, anywhere in between or around. Again, that is Derrick. I am Keith. We are going to be breaking down the Academy Awards from the major categories. So we're going to be talking about supporting actress, supporting actor, actor, actress, director, international film, and best picture. If you're jumping on and you're like, well, who's going to help me figure out live action short? Throw a comment in the chat and we'll get to it. But those are the main awards that we're going to be focusing on. And the way we're going to do it is very simple. We're going to bring up the nominees. We're going to do it in just a moment here. We're going to bring up the nominees. And we're going to go through who do we think will win, who would we have voted for, which is a lot nicer way of saying who should win. So who would we have voted for, and who should have been nominated? Okay, Derrick, you ready to get started?
I'm ready, man. This has been a weird Oscar. Well, no, it's been a weird award season because things feel very defined, and there's not a lot of prognostication you can actually do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Just as we go through this, I'm going to be jumping into comments as they come in because we do appreciate the participation. Matt, thank you for tuning in. I enjoy seeing the technical awards documentaries get their due on live TV. I hope they still show them. It's interesting. Matt brings up an interesting point. There was a couple of years ago, it was actually the year of the slap, so nothing good happened that year, where they did away. Yeah, they did away with several of the awards from the live telecast, which was ridiculous because all of a sudden it's like the Oscars are now the Grammys. So that didn't go over well. Last year they made sure that all the awards were presented. I suspect that's going to be the case going forward. I mean, there's only 23 awards. It's not that difficult. But so the expectation is all of the awards should be shown. Okay, so we are going to start off here with Best Supporting Actor. Our nominees are Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for a little film you might have heard of called Oppenheimer, Canada's own Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo coming in for Poor Things. Those are our nominees. Derrick, over to you. Who do you think will win? Who would you have voted for, and who should have been nominated?
So who will win is Robert Downey Jr. I think Oppenheimer. I haven't put any hard-earned money, so this is just my mouth talking. I have a prop bet that I think Oppenheimer will go 8+. And in order to do that, they do need to sweep pretty much most of the above the line categories and a lot of the technical awards, which I do think they will. So this is one where RDJ has been just incredible on the campaign trail. He's been doing very, very well when it comes to the precursors. And so I think this is pretty much his to lose. So that's my pick. My heart pick out of these nominees who I would want to win would actually be Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things.
Okay.
I think it is probably one of his best performances. It is him just dialing it up to 11 without overacting and really kind of fitting the vibe of that film overall. He is so funny in this movie. That fake British accent, the way that I described it in my review, is it sounds like a seventh grader who
Mhm.
thinks they know what a British accent is supposed to sound like, and then they just don that, and it's so purposeful and so he just fits the whole vibe of that movie. And so out of these, I love Sterling K. Brown. He was incredible in American Fiction. Robert De Niro does some of his best work in, I don't know, the last 30 years. But I really would have to give this to Mark Ruffalo if I was picking with my heart.
Okay.
And then who is missing from this list that I would very much love to have given a nomination to would be Charles Melton from May December. I know there was an early push for him, an early campaign for him, and it looked like he might make the short list. And unfortunately, he didn't. But to me, that is one of the absolute best supporting performances of the year. May December was my favorite film of the year. And he is just absolutely devastating. And just makes this incredible turn from cheesy CW star to a truly poignant, reserved. He's so incredible in this movie, and it's such a shame he's missing from this list.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Now, I guess I should have said this before. You and I haven't talked about what our lists are going to look like. So we're hearing each other's list for the first time in terms of who should win, who we would have voted for, and who should have been nominated. So it's interesting. So for myself, the first part is kind of carbon copy of yourself. Who will win? 100% Robert Downey Jr. Now, going into this award season, he is absolutely dominated with, SAG, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe. The list goes on. It's been fantastic for him. And as somebody who's really appreciated his career, even beyond the Marvel stuff, I've loved a lot of his roles. Like I think of his poignancy in The Judge and a little unknown film, One Night Stand, back in the day that he did with Wesley Snipes. He's very good in this film, and he executes the dialogue effectively. His portrayal is very strong. Agreeing with you, I would have gone, if I had a vote, which they tell me I don't, I would have gone with Mark Ruffalo. I think this entire Poor Things movie was completely out of the box, and we're seeing Mark Ruffalo in a role that we haven't, in a type of role that we haven't seen him in before, and I really appreciated that. I appreciated his courage in being able to do something different. You could say the same thing for Ryan Gosling as well. This is kind of a murderer's row of nominees. I think Sterling K. Brown, already an Emmy winner, was great in American Fiction, but that doesn't have a lot of traction. I think Robert De Niro is always fantastic. One of the challenges is when you're as great as him, it's very easy to start, overlooking, kind of like that Meryl Streep effect. So I think it's a solid category, but in terms of who will win, Robert Downey Jr. But I would have given the nod to Ruffalo. In regards to who I would have voted for, this is where we're going to differ. I don't know if it's the Canadian in me, but I really appreciated a movie called Blackberry, and there was a fantastic performance by Glenn Howerton in that film, and I was really blown away by it. Kind of taking it back to when Blackberry was in its heyday, and his character I thought was fantastic. It was a long shot to think that he would get a nomination. That being said, it would have been nice to see, because I think the film deserved some recognition, and I thought it was a great performance.
That is genuinely a fantastic pick, and I think Glenn Howerton does. He acts against type, and he is phenomenal in Blackberry. Yeah. Has one of my favorite lines and line deliveries of 2023 by far and away. So.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Jumping back to Matt here, he says, will win Downey, should win De Niro, would have voted for De Niro. Yeah, 100%. I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon was a great film. And it's interesting because I know one of the comments is, oh, it's so long. Here's the thing. I saw that movie in the theater, didn't feel, it didn't feel short, but I was invested. I wasn't doing like the watch checks. It's a challenging film to watch at home, only because I don't know how often people are going to be completely locked in to a 3.5-hour movie at home with all of the distractions at home. I constantly have this conversation about, movies. Is it better to watch it at home in the theater? But we'll leave that for another day. I will always go theater, but that in itself brings its challenges with the texting and the talking. But so
I would agree, though, especially for films like Killers of the Flower Moon. And I would make the argument even for Oppenheimer. I knew plenty of people that fired up Oppenheimer at home and they turned it off after an hour because they were
Yeah.
just like, this is just a bunch of dudes in a room talking. And while yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
There is a very different viewing experience when you watch it in the theater. Oppenheimer was not my favorite film of the year. However, I have a incredible appreciation for that film because I saw it in a theater. I saw it in, one of the biggest screens that I could have access to. And that really made a huge difference for my enjoyment. And I believe Killers of the Flower Moon is very much like that as well. And I think the subject matter is very difficult. But yeah.
No, 100%. Okay. We are going to move on to Best Supporting Actress. Here our nominees are Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. That is where we are going to go to next. I will kick this one off. For myself, in terms of who will win, Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. The amount of momentum that she's been bringing into this role is absolutely extraordinary in terms of the other awards that she's won, similar to Robert Downey Jr. along the way. I don't see that momentum stopping. Not necessarily sure how many awards The Holdovers will actually end up with, but this is definitely one that I think that they seem to have in the bag, unless things kind of go completely off the rails. So who will win? Divine Joy. Who should win in this category? I also will stick with Divine Joy, but I do have a bit of an issue with this category in the sense of when you talk about who should have been nominated, I got a list for you. Penelope Cruz for Ferrari. I thought she was fantastic in that. Sandra Hüller, The Zone of Interest. And also from The Color Purple, I would have gone Taraji P. Henson. So I looked at this category and people will very well dismiss and say, well, Keith, you've been talking about Zone of Interest, so that's why you're going to go with Sandra Hüller. And they're not wrong, but I do think her performance was great. But how in the world is Penelope Cruz for Ferrari not on this list? So to me, that was in my opinion, that was a pretty big snub. That being said, I thought Divine Joy Randolph's performance in this was great. I also feel that she might be getting some late recognition for her performance in Dolomite Is My Name, where she did pick up some awards for that when that came out several years ago. But I look at this category and I don't think that the right nominees overall are there. And listen, I don't want this to get to like the Independent Spirit Awards or some of these other award shows where you've got like 10 nominees in an acting category. I'm just not convinced that this is the right 5. Am I crazy, Derek?
No. And those are actually really good picks. And I would pretty much 100% agree with you on all fronts. So I agree that Divine Joy Randolph is winning this award. She literally has not missed a precursor from the minute the award season started. She has just been absolutely flawless. Her speeches have just been touching and meaningful and full of purpose. And she's really owning this moment. And she is one of the best supporting actresses of the year. Like, her performance in The Holdovers is just incredible. So I think she's winning, and I do think she should win. Off of this list, I unequivocally, like, there's just nobody better than her. I actually, and I apologize because I haven't created my own Best Supporting Actress list, but I can tell you, outside of Divine Joy Randolph and Danielle Brooks, I'd take off every single one of these people and put different names on there. I just look. I'm sure people enjoyed Nyad. It's got the Netflix sports biopic, whatever. But like, that movie is so average to me. And even as good as Jodie Foster is, and she's really the best part of the movie. I just this is an insane list. Like, for how good some of these actresses are, and the names that you brought up, honestly, I'd replace all 3 of them. Just give me Sandra Hüller, give me
Penelope Cruz,
give me Penelope Cruz. I actually hated Ferrari but that was mostly because Penelope Cruz wasn't on screen enough. Like that woman understood the assignment, and she is so good in that movie. And she also feels like one of those actresses where, she's one of those people where when she shows up in something, you're probably just going to expect her to win something. Mm-hmm. She's going to show up on an awards category. I always think of the year of Parallel Mothers, where like five people knew that movie existed, and she landed in the Best Actress category. Mm-hmm. And Penelope, she's just that girl. Like she's just that woman. And Ferrari is whatever you want to say it is, but she is incredible. And I would replace her in a heartbeat with Emily Blunt, who I adore, America Ferrera, who I think does an incredible job in Barbie, but not best. Like she's getting this nomination because of an incredible speech that she delivered, and that's not a holistic performance for me. Yeah. And then again, Jodie Foster and Nyad, you can just throw that whole movie back in the sea where you found it.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, this is one of those head scratchers. I mean, there is debate. And, years ago, not too many years ago, Jennifer Lopez had a fantastic performance in Hustlers. And this is coming from a guy who liked the movie and appreciated, the film. Not a guy who's like some J-Lo fan, because I'm indifferent. And it was one of those things where when the nominees come out, it's like, you're not nominated. I don't know why they keep ignoring such strong performances in this category. And we're giving you three strong performances that could wipe out over half of this list.
And that's without half-ass internet research. Like that's
exactly.
That's just like you firing off a few names of some movies you enjoyed better. Yeah. And I guarantee you, if I went into the short list or I went into supporting actors, I could redo this whole list and basically just keep Divine Joy Randolph and find, a ton of. So this is for a year that has some really strong nominees. Mm-hmm. This is a very, very strange category of nominees.
Yeah, 100%. We're checking back in with Matt. And Matt, thank you for being here. Currently, Matt is the only one who has found his voice today. But so, Matt, keep that going.
We love you, Matt.
We love you, Matt. Will win Randolph. Should win Randolph. Would have voted for Ferrera. Yeah. Okay. And there's a comment here. Only Murders in the Building. I'm not sure if that's like referring to somebody being in that show. I haven't seen that show. I know it's Steve Martin and Martin Short, if I'm not mistaken. And
Selena Gomez.
I was going to say, is it Selena Gomez? Okay. So yeah, but okay, we're going to go on to our next category. We are looking now. We're jumping around. We're going next to Best Director. Okay. We're going to Best Director. Your nominees for Best Director are Jonathan Glazer, The Zone of Interest, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese, couldn't even get it all in one line, the movie's too long, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Justine Triet for Anatomy of the Fall. Those are your nominees for Best Director. Sorry, there it is. Okay. Sorry, Justine. We got your name cut off a little bit there. Okay. We're going back to you, Derrick. How do you feel in regards to this category?
Yeah. So this is another surefire win for Nolan. I think this is an Oppenheimer category to lose. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go Christopher Nolan. I think he'll finally get his due. Out of this list, though, I would honestly give it to any one of them outside of Nolan. I know that's not a direct pick, so I guess if I had to pick, it would really. I really like what Lanthimos does with Poor Things. I think that movie doesn't work if you don't have someone who can really control the chaos. I like Trier. I think she does an incredible job in Anatomy of a Fall. But I think some of the credit for that film goes to performance, editing, cinematography, script, which she's a part of. And not saying that the director doesn't have a hand in all of those things, but I think those are the better parts of Anatomy of a Fall. So long story short, out of this list, I would probably give it to Lanthimos. Okay. I know that's an incredibly long shot. But yeah, truthfully, any of them I would pick over Nolan. Sorry, I no. Would. And then who is missing from this list? Obviously, Greta Gerwig. it should be on this list. I think that's obviously the clear pick, and I know that there's some hot debates about whether or not this is the right choice. But here's the thing: this is one of those films. I was listening to another podcast that was talking about the Oscars, and one of the things that they had brought up when they're talking about directors and who should be nominated is essentially, does this film work with any director behind it? And when you think of in terms of best director, I think that's a really good way to look at it, because I would think something like Oppenheimer, not saying it doesn't work the way that it does, but most people can adapt something like, you can do a big scale movie about men in rooms talking. Will it be as good as Oppenheimer? Probably not, but it's not something that feels so imperative to their identity. Barbie is just such a special case where that movie doesn't work without someone like Greta Gerwig. And to me, that says a lot about her abilities as a director, her choices as a director, her strengths in how she brought Barbie to life in a way that made it a literal phenomenon. And to me, that signals a best director. So I would probably give that. I could do a whole other rant about Todd Haynes in May, December, but we'll stick with the obvious and we'll stay with Greta Gerwig.
Let me ask you this: if Greta Gerwig had been in that category, do you think she would have won?
No.
Okay.
I think the Academy would still probably give it to Nolan.
Okay.
I think there's a sense that like, this is Nolan's time, this is Oppenheimer's time, and I just think the branches are just they're on the Oppenheimer train. It would have been a much more fun category, because now you just get to do Barbenheimer the entire Oscars. Like, that would be incredible. But I don't think she would have won. I don't think she would have won. That's more commentary on the Academy itself than it is like the credit of her work. But
no, fair. And imagine this: imagine had Dune come out when it was supposed to. We very well could have seen Denis Villeneuve in this category as well. So
he would have won.
Yeah.
And he should have won. He'll win this year. But yeah.
So okay. So for myself, in terms of the who will win, 100% Christopher Nolan. Here is the thing, though. I agree with you in terms of anybody. I kind of agree with you in terms of like anybody. But I believe, and I put this in my article on my Oscar preview, which will be dropping tomorrow. In terms of, sometimes the universe has to set things right. Sometimes we get to a point where we kind of sit back and we think to ourselves, wait a minute, so-and-so's never won an Academy Award before. Okay, we need to fix that. So, for example, when Denzel Washington won for Training Day, yes, he already had the supporting Oscar trophy for Glory, but he never won lead. He was nominated multiple times. He won for Training Day. I don't think Training Day was his best performance out of all the films that he was nominated for. Is it iconic? Is it iconic? Do people quote lines from it? 100%. You're not going to convince me that was better than Malcolm X. His performance in Malcolm X. I'm sorry. So with Christopher Nolan, is Oppenheimer his best movie? Debatable, in my opinion. No. I think he should have been nominated for revolutionizing the superhero genre with the Dark Knight trilogy, and of course, the Dark Knight's the one that is usually the go-to for people. I think Dunkirk was a phenomenal movie. My favorite Nolan film was Inception. I mean, there's so many great movies that he's had that he hasn't gotten recognition for. The man has 0 Oscars. It doesn't make any sense. So from that perspective, the universe is going to be fixed with Nolan winning for Best Director this weekend. That being said, if we were to take away and just kind of, you know how sometimes if you're doing an interview or something, you strip the names and you just look at, the candidates and what have you. If we could strip it and just look at these and take away the lore of Nolan and that, to your point, I don't think this was the best directorial achievement. I mean, he's working on something like a $200 million budget. We've got several films in here that aren't even close to that. So who would I have voted for? Jonathan Glazer, Zone of Interest. I think that was an exceptional film. There's, to me, there's two movies working here. There's the movie that you see, and then there's the movie that you hear. And it's just it's the movie that left me completely numb. And I think from a directorial standpoint, even when you look at how the movie was filmed, just kind of leaving the cameras around and picking up the footage, I think it was brilliant. I also wouldn't be, as my friend says, butthurt if Justine Triet won. I think Anatomy of a Fall is incredible. I'm glad to see that even though it's a stand up from Cannes, it's an international film. It's subtitled. It's still getting a lot of traction, and I was equally as excited to see her name on the nominee list whenever the nominees were announced back in the day as I was to see Jonathan Glazer. You spent a lot of time talking about Greta Gerwig, and rightfully so. It's weird to have somebody who directed the biggest movie of the year. People like to say, oh, the first female director to reach $1 billion, and that's absolutely true. But for me, the more important soundbite is the biggest movie of the year. Forget the $1 Billion Club is great, but of 2023 was Greta Gerwig. So it's kind of weird not to have her on the list. You spent a lot of time talking about her, so I don't have to repeat that. What I will say is, if I could nominate somebody else, if somebody else could be missing on this list, I'm actually going to go with Celine Song for Past Lives. Reason being is that when you look at, that film, I think it was probably the most romantic film of the year. I think it was the breakout of the Sundance Film Festival. Mm-hmm. When you collect all of these top 10 lists from reviewers and critics like ourselves, one of the constants is in the top 3, you're going to be looking at Past Lives. I believe you had it number 2. I'm pretty sure I had it number 2 as well.
And it was number 1 for most of the year until I finally caught up with May, December.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you ask me on any given day, like, they're practically interchangeable. Like,
yeah. So I absolutely love that movie. Would have loved to have seen her get the recognition there. I think it's an incredible film. I know it did well at the Independent Spirit Awards, but again, a $200 million budget versus a $10 million budget, I think that can play into it a little bit. But again, it's Nolan's to lose, based on not just on this film, but I think also on past achievements as well. And
I think as we have more movies that come out, because there's more movies accessible than there ever have been. I'm an advocate for just expanding the category. Like, mm-hmm. if you're going to continually shut out women as much as you possibly can, even though they directed the biggest and some of the best films of the year, mm-hmm. if you're going to keep shutting them out, then just expand the goddamn category. Like, just make it 10 so that we can actually get these women who are creating near masterpieces so that mm-hmm. they're not ignored for their work. Like, let's stop this, guys. Like, just make it 10. There's enough films to go around now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, 100%. Okay. We got to check in with Matt to get his thoughts. Should win Nolan, will win Nolan. Would have voted for Scorsese because I'm a Marty stan.
Yep.
I don't know if I don't think I'm cool on the lingo, because what's a stan?
He's just a diehard fan.
All right, I love it. Yeah. Well, we're a stan of you, Matt. So thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate it.
I'm a Marty stan too, and I think he would if this is his passion. It's something he's wanted to do for a long time, and he's coming to the end of his life. So or life. I shouldn't say that. That's grim. He's coming to the end of his career. Yeah. And the fact that he's, I don't know, 90 something or 80 something, and he's still cranking out something like Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah. I get where you're coming from, Matt.
Yeah. Adam, we're also a stan of you. Thank you for being here with us. Also giving Nolan, Adam saving his words. All he has to say is Nolan. So just Nolan for the win. I like it. That's all. Sometimes that's all you need to say.
Right. We know where he stands.
Yeah. Let us go into Best Actor. Best Actor. Our nominees here for this one, we've got Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright coming in for American Fiction. we've got a solid, definitely a solid category on this one. I will kick us off on this. In regards to who I think will win, and I think it's Cillian Murphy. I think Cillian Murphy is going to. This is great for you because you said you were looking for Oppenheimer to have a great night. I think 8 is what you said.
Yep.
Cillian Murphy wins this award. A strong performance. And one of the things that I appreciate is the fact that he got the opportunity to have a lead role after being in so many supporting roles or sometimes little bit parts, respectfully, in some of Nolan's movies. Some of the movies he had more of a presence than others, but he was there. He's kind of like, I think, second to Michael Caine in Christopher Nolan film appearances. So a strong performance in this film. I definitely think, being in a Nolan movie with the strong dialogue helped him along. I always struggle with some of the performances in Nolan films in the sense of, I think the director usually overshadows the project when you're in a Nolan film. And I think that was the case here because, all the advertising, the new film from Christopher Nolan, director of this, and that, and the other thing. And then you're seeing the performances in it. And it's going to be IMAX. It's going to be grandiose. It's going to be huge. He benefits from that. I think who should win is Paul Giamatti. I think, contrarily, I think that Giamatti makes The Holdovers. His performance is phenomenal in this. If you've seen some of his work before, like in movies like Confidence, which I loved, in movies like Barney's Version, which I've loved, he's played different variations of this character in terms of like the curmudgeon, the sarcasm, what have you. He turns it up in this, and I think his performance in this movie is outstanding. And he's kind of like on that Stanley Tucci, how come you don't have an Oscar list for me? And I would absolutely love to see that fixed on Sunday. I just don't think it will. I think Cillian Murphy definitely wins this. And again, it's not going to be one of these things. I'm not going to be like all sad in the corner, like, how did this happen? Murphy had a great performance. This is going to be his time. Now, in terms of who I think should have been nominated, there's 2 names that I'm going to throw at you. One is Andrew Scott for All of Us Strangers, which I thought was a devastatingly beautiful role. But the one that I was really impressed with, that really blew me away, and I'm reading this because I don't want to mess up the pronunciation, Koji Yakusho for Perfect Days. I loved that film, and the last 5 minutes of the film, without giving anything away, you watch this movie, you're like, okay, this guy won the best actor at the Cannes Film Festival. This is a decent performance. You get into the last 5 minutes, and it's like mind blown with the performance. I think this is one of those films, or one of those performances that I think was somewhat overlooked. This is a solid category. I mean, Coleman Domingo is, in a lot of his films, like, Color Purple, Zola, he's absolutely terrifying. Completely different role here in Rustin. I know the Toronto Film Festival was really pushing him with their TIFF Tribute Award. Jeffrey Wright was great in American Fiction. I don't want to hate on Bradley Cooper. I'll leave that to you. I can't say that I love Maestro, but I mean, I do respect that the guy from The Hangover makes that the guy from The Hangover makes really solid, is making some solid films. But in terms of who will win, Murphy. Who should win, Giamatti. But if I could only pick one other person to jump into this list, Koji Yakusho for Perfect Days.
Yeah, that's we're going to be almost carbon copied. I agree. This is Cillian Murphy's one to lose. I know that Paul Giamatti had the lone Golden Globe, and unfortunately, he's just going to have to take that Golden Globe back to In-N-Out after the Oscars. Sorry. I agree, though. I think Paul Giamatti does make The Holdovers, and he is one of those character actors where when you really, so I love that you shouted out Confidence too. When you really start looking at his body of work and what he brings to roles, he really is just the guy where you watch him and you're like, oh, that's got to be Oscar winner Paul Giamatti. And then you look and you're like, wait, never? So yeah, he definitely has that. He's fantastic in this movie. I would not be upset if he pulled an upset. I think that would be incredible. It's not going to happen. So I think if it's going to go to anybody, I'm fine with it going to Murphy. This is honestly one of those rare categories where I'm actually okay with almost every single name on this list. I think this is where they got it the closest. And I think they really nail it here. with the exception of Bradley Cooper, who, look, I enjoy Bradley Cooper quite a bit. I think he's a terrific actor, and I do think he is a pretty solid director. I don't think Maestro was good at all, and I'm actually looking forward to it blanking completely because I don't think it's winning a single award. That movie was just insufferable to me, and I hate that I have to say that. If I was going to replace anybody on this list, because I actually wouldn't take anybody else off. Jeffrey Wright turning in one of his best comedic performances of all time, of his entire career. Coleman Domingo just on this friggin' run in 2023, like just that man. Look, Rustin is a whatever film. Like, you can forget everything about the movie. It's pretty standard and it's pretty rough to watch. But my God, Coleman Domingo chews through scenery in this movie. He is just absolutely incredible. I really hope he gets his flowers with Sing Sing next year. I really hope that's the case. So overall, this list is almost perfect. I would actually trade out Bradley Cooper if I had to put somebody on. I loved your pick. I think that's a phenomenal pick. I wasn't blown away by Perfect Days. However, his performance is just mesmerizing. Like, you can't stop watching him. He is so good in this movie. So I will differ a little bit, and I'm actually going to go with Teo Yo from
Past Lives.
Yeah, that movie, and I'm going to do the same thing with Best Actress. Just heads up.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. But that movie doesn't work without what he's doing and without what Greta Lee's doing. I think Celine Song does create just an absolutely gut punch of a script. I think she has so much confidence in her directing. It's such a beautiful, quiet, nostalgic, longing movie. But it doesn't work if you don't have what Teo Yo and Greta Lee are doing on screen. Like, it just doesn't work. You need them to be dialed into what Celine Song is trying to create. And I just think it's a hugely overlooked performance. And I'd switch him out for Bradley Cooper any day of the week. I'd trade him, just get rid of him. And then this list would be almost perfect. So
yeah. And then twice on Sundays. All right. Our number one fan, who we're big stands of. Okay, here we go. Should win Wright. Will win. My upset choice is Giamatti. Would have voted for Wright or Murphy. Yeah. Solid.
This is genuinely one of those categories where, honestly, there really is no wrong answer. Bradley Cooper is the wrong answer, but I told you I was going to do it.
There is no wrong answer unless you say Bradley Cooper, and then that is the wrong answer. Then you have failed. You did not understand the assignment.
Yeah, but the other four, I mean, if you chose any one of them, I'd be like, yeah, I got your back, bro. Like, yeah. So,
okay, we are going to. All right, we're going to move on to Best Actress. All right, our nominees for Best Actress are Annette Bening for. Sorry. I don't mean to giggle. Annette Bening for Naiad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. Okay, Derek, I turn to you as you're going to kick this one off. Who will win? Who would you have voted for, and who should have been nominated?
So this is hands down the closest race of every category at the Oscars right now. We have a genuine 2-horse race between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone. Both performances, I think, they've been trading blows pretty much the entire award season. So someone will win 2, and then somebody else will win 3, and then someone will win 1, and someone will win 1. They've been back and forth in almost every single precursor. So I'm genuinely excited to see what happens here. But my pick for who will win and who should win are actually both the same. I think Gladstone is the clear winner here. I think more than anything, yes, her performance is incredible, and I think this will be the lone Killers of the Flower Moon win that it takes. But more than anything, I mean, Gladstone, she's deserving of the award. The Academy has the opportunity to truly make history, and really do something right in a sea of wrongs that they typically do. They honestly, they have an opportunity to really own and make the right choice. So I think Gladstone is the right choice. I would not be shocked if Stone pulls it out from under her in the last minute. The Academy loves Emma Stone, and Emma Stone turns in an absolutely phenomenal performance in Poor Things. When you talk about a movie that doesn't work without somebody that's like dialed into what's going on, Emma Stone is dialed in to whatever is going on in Poor Things. So it's a tough one. The way I talk shit about Bradley Cooper before, that's going to Annette Bening. She's getting all the smoke. When they announced these, when I was watching the announcements and they said Annette Bening for Naiad, I almost just closed my computer. I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like this, you have got to be kidding me. Like, really? You watched all of these movies and this is the get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of my face. This is the dumbest. And I love Annette Bening. This has nothing to do with her. Like, this is just not a good movie, and she's not good in it. So, anyways, that rant over. This award goes to Greta Lee. Greta Lee needs to be on this list. The fact that she shut up from this, Greta Lee is just she. I don't think anybody broke my heart as much as she did in this movie or this year or last year in 2023. She ugly cry. Just the last few minutes of Past Lives, not to spoil anything, but she is just. I was fine the whole movie. I was like, this is great. This is really good. I'm emotionally invested, but like I don't know why. I don't know what everybody's talking about. And then the last like 5-10 minutes hit, and I was like, that's what you mean. Like she just she's phenomenal, and I think she absolutely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah. So for myself, breaking this down, I completely agree. We were going to have a 2-person race, Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone, the Stones coming in for this one. I 100% agree that Lily Gladstone is going to win it. I'm looking forward to her standing ovation. I'm looking forward to her teary-eyed speech. I'm looking forward to her having her moment. It is a great performance in Killers of the Flower Moon. To be the person that kind of comes out of that movie as the one person that we feel is really going to get the award in a movie that has Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro is no small task. But she exudes such confidence and strength in this film. I was absolutely blown away by her performance. Emma Stone, to your point, I mean, this is a role where where the actor and the director really need to trust each other, because I know a lot of people start watching Poor Things and they turn it off. Okay, I get it. It's kind of softcore porn. I get it, but it's a very unique, quirky movie that can only come to us from the mind of a guy who brought us films like Killing of a Sacred Deer. So I get it. Yorgos is there's a box and he's out there. David Lynch is like, man, that guy's crazy. Like he's out there. Okay.
So I like this guy.
Yeah, I get it. I will tell you, Carey Mulligan, in my opinion, should have won for Promising Young Woman. I believe that's the year that Frances McDormand won for Nomadland. I don't know why. In my opinion, I definitely think Carey Mulligan should have won then. I don't think she should win now, and Annette Bening, there's not really a lot you can say about a movie that you can't put 5 people together on your Facebook friends list who haven't seen it. Like, I mean, nobody is talking about Naiad, you know? Yeah. So in all honesty, who I would have voted for would have been Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. I remember being, it was day 1 of TIFF. It was like the most amazing double feature because it was Anatomy of a Fall and then the Zone of Interest right after. I was blown away by that film. You're watching a movie and you think it's about one thing, and then you realize you don't even care about that thing. You're getting something completely different. Her performance to me was a masterclass in acting. The fact that we're looking at somebody who's already broken through in Europe, you know, with great performances in movies like Tony Erdmann and many others. This was such a great year for her. I would have been totally cool to see her as she was at the BAFTAs as a double nominee here at the Oscars. I was extremely impressed with her performance, and taking nothing away again from Lily Gladstone. The performance to me that really moved me was her performance, because she makes Anatomy of a Fall.
Mhm.
I mean, she's working off of a fantastic script by Justin Triet. And I know she co-wrote it, but I can't remember the name of the gentleman that she wrote it with. But absolutely blown away by her performance in that. In regards to who should have been nominated, Tiana Taylor for 1001. I thought her performance in that movie was
you're getting an audible clap for that one.
I appreciate
audible
that.
Clap.
And yeah, I loved her performance in that. It's again a strong independent film that came out of Sundance. There's a lot of great things. Listen, I am never going to set foot in the state of Utah again. We can talk about that later. But I am not going to knock the Sundance Film Festival. They've got a lot of great movies that come out of there. 1001 was definitely one of them, and her performance was phenomenal. And Anjanou Ellis Taylor, I wrestled with this one. I did appreciate her performance in Origin. And listen, we clearly have to kick Annette Bening and Carey Mulligan off of this list. So I would no problem bringing those two in. Origin's an interesting film in terms of how it was promoted, because it's like, is it an Oscar season? Is it not an Oscar season? Because it kind of had that weird January, like weird release time. Regardless, yeah. I thought that Ava DuVernay directed a fantastic movie and a great performance from Anjanou. But oh, hang on, they're telling me I'm going too long. Okay, so wrapping it up, Lily Gladstone will win for Killers of the Flower Moon. I would have voted for Sandra Hüller, though. So hang on one second. We're coming in with Matt, who says should win Hüller or Stone. Will win Gladstone. Would have voted for Stone. And Stone produced Poor Things as well. She absolutely did. She produced that. Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie was also one of the producers on Barbie. So it's good to see a lot of people, you know, getting involved in the production as well. So
yeah. No, it's good. It's good. That's it. Tiana Taylor, shout out. I love it so much. She genuinely deserves to be on this list, and I want her to do more. And more things like this that showcase what she's capable of, because she was that was one of my favorite films from Sundance. That movie was incredible.
Yeah, so. I say this, and sometimes it sounds condescending, but I really don't mean it to be. But sometimes you see actors in roles, but then they come along and they're in something that just blows you away, and you're like, where has that been? You know, like sometimes you see people in things. Her name is escaping me right now, but the actress in the movie In the Fade. We'd seen her before. I'm totally IMDbing her right now because I want to give her the credit. But I believe she was nominated for some awards. I don't think she was Oscar nominated for In the Fade. But, Diane Kruger, thank you. One of these actors we've seen in multiple things. All of a sudden, she's in this movie. It's like, where did that come from? Yeah. So sometimes it takes the right role to bring that out. So yeah. All right. We are going to go on to our next category now, which is Best International Film. The best movies aren't necessarily always in the English language, and if you're cool with subtitles the way we are, you're going to enjoy these films. We've got Io Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days from Japan, Society of the Snow from Spain, The Teacher's Lounge from Germany, and we've also got The Zone of Interest from the UK. So those are our nominees. I will kick this off. I don't think this is my answer is not going to be a spoiler to anybody who spent like 5 minutes talking film with me in the last while. Will win. Absolutely The Zone of Interest. Should win. Absolutely The Zone of Interest. What movie should you watch this weekend? Absolutely The Zone of Interest. Okay, this movie, like I said, it absolutely blew me away, and I remember sitting in the theater and just being numb after it concludes. I think Jonathan Glazer and what him and his cast and crew did with this film is absolutely incredible, and I was just blown away by this movie. I want to thank France for putting The Taste of Things. Is it The Taste of Things, or I think that's
Mhm.
the name of the movie, as their nominee, and not Anatomy of a Fall? Because if Anatomy of a Fall was in here, it could have very well have been a toss up, but
Yeah.
that's not the case. The Zone of Interest, though, is a bit of a puzzle to me, in the sense of, I'm a member of Film Independent, and so we get screeners, and they didn't provide screeners for the Zone of Interest. I'm assuming the Academy is going to be getting screeners for the Zone of Interest. I hope. I think it's a fantastic film, and I've talked to you about this before. Somebody said to me, I say I love the film, and people say, or so one person, I should say, said to me, you can't say you love it. Well, I'm not saying that I love the subject matter. I'm saying I love the filmmaking. I love the
Mhm.
style that he took. He took a subject that's been dealt with so many times. I think Schindler's List and Life is Beautiful are the two films that I think about in terms of like premier movies that deal with the Holocaust. Now the Zone of Interest is on that list, and after Sunday, like those films, it'll be an Academy Award winner. Absolutely blown away by this film, and it's one of those films that has stayed with me, and that's why it was my favorite film from last year. In regards to this category, it is a pretty solid category. Perfect Days is I really enjoyed it. For me, the brilliance of this film is in its simplicity. You've got a guy who's a janitor in Tokyo, and he just goes around cleaning toilets and listening to music. And then as you as you watch the film and you get deeper into the character, it's very interesting. I think there's a subtle context in terms of how we treat people in different roles from a hierarchical standpoint. Some people are very nice when they come across them. Some people not so much. So I think there's that context as well. But his performance blows me away. I enjoyed the Teachers Lounge. I didn't think I was going to like the Teachers Lounge as much as I did. I thought
Yeah.
I thought it was a great film. The one film that I would have loved to have seen on this list was actually Fallen Leaves. I think that was a cute romantic film from Denmark, I believe. I did enjoy that movie, but regardless if that's on the list or not, it doesn't change my feeling in regards to the Zone of Interest. Over to you, my friend.
Yeah. So Zone of Interest absolutely will win. And I agree with you. The fact that it doesn't have to go head to head with Anatomy of a Fall, because I do think that would be a very close race and it would be a
Mhm.
toss up. And honestly, I don't want to see either one of them lose. I want both of those films to walk away with something. Zone of Interest is taking it here.
Yeah.
The film I would actually want to win is The Teacher's Lounge. That
Okay.
movie it was one of the first films I watched at TIFF, and I watched it on Screener, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this out. I knew nothing about it. Like, this is, it's a TIFF screener before we actually show up the TIFF. So like there's no promo, there's no trailer, there's no critic reviews, like there's nothing to give me any kind of frame of reference as to what I'm going to embark on. So I I remember maybe 30 minutes in, I like sat up and like sat forward to really get, like, I was so enthralled in this movie. I know that the ending is polarizing and I don't think it works for everybody.
Mhm.
But this is an incredible film. If you have not seen The Teacher's Lounge, I highly recommend you go out and watch it. I would also say, please watch foreign films. Like, please just watch movies that aren't American.
Yeah.
You will experience a whole new world of just gorgeous, incredible, beautiful, wonderful cinema. Like, please, I cannot stress enough how much you need to do this. It is like some of my favorite films made their way into my top 10, and they
Mhm.
were foreign films because they just, yeah. Anyways, I can go on
Yeah.
that rant forever, but just expand your mind. I promise there's more movies that exist outside of America, and a lot of them are really damn good. The Zone of Interest will win. Teacher's Lounge is kind of a heart pick. I just really, really loved that film. This is a category where I would actually enter in a couple of them,
Okay.
because this is another category where I just let everybody submit as many films as they want. Like,
Mhm.
stop doing this. They got to submit one film per country. Like, it's dumb. Just shortlist it like you do the best picture list. They all qualify if they fit within the realm. Let us pick and give us 10. Just
Okay.
and if you have all 10 films from Japan, it just means Japan made great cinema. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't matter. So many countries get left out because we leave
Mhm.
it to 5 and we leave it to 1 per country. And to me, like, foreign cinema is just so expansive, and we're growing in diversity and global reach in cinema. So anyways, my point is, I would actually submit something like Monster, which is from Japan, which I just absolutely adored. I was shocked the Taste of Things didn't make the short list. I don't understand how that even happened, because the Taste of Things is absolutely one of the most hottest, sexiest films about food I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's so beautiful. I love that movie. Fallen Leaves is another fantastic example. I think About Dry Grasses, which is just absolutely a phenomenal film. I even liked the first half of The Delinquents, which I think should probably have been in here somewhere. The Settlers, which is just this deconstruction of the Western. El Conde, which is just this gorgeous black and white, quirky view of history. Like, guys, just expand this category to 10. I can't even give you the one that I would actually put on this list. If pressed, it would probably be Monster. I think Monster I would replace Io Capitana with Monster for sure.
So it's interesting, right? Because going into the festival, going into the Toronto Festival, there's more than one, Keith, but going into the Toronto National Film Festival, there was talk, because we're close to when Japan was going to be naming what film they were going to have to represent them. And it was interesting that Perfect Days was the one, because it's directed by Wim Wenders. But so in your opinion, they got it wrong with their selection? You would have had Monster as the pick.
I would have, yeah.
Okay. And it's interesting, right? Because going into TIFF, they were pushing The Boy and the Heron, which of course is another Japanese film, really hard.
Evil does not exist.
And Evil does not exist.
Too,
yeah. So I have to say, I wasn't overly disappointed. I wouldn't have had a problem with Monster. To your point, it's a fantastic movie. From that director, I probably enjoyed Broker and Shoplifters a little more, but I still think that Monster was a great movie. But Perfect Days was a bit of a surprise, because I kind of went into it saying, okay, let's see what this is about. And then I'm watching it, I'm like, again, to me, the performance kind of outshines the film. Earlier I was talking about Nolan's direction, overshadows performances.
Sure.
His performance to me overshadowed the film. So, but it's going to be interesting. We've got Matt saying, I abstain, only seen Zone of Interest. Well, first of all, you should have, and congratulations on seeing what I call the best movie of 2023. You get applause from me for that, but 100%, make sure you definitely check out the Teachers Lounge and Perfect Days. We didn't really say a lot about Io Capitano and Society of the Snow, and there's a reason
Society
for that.
of the Snow is great. Society of the Snow is great. It's a fantastic film. I'm just such a huge fan of foreign cinema in general, that boiling this down to 5 and 1 per country, to me, that's just, it's asinine. You are cutting out a ton of movies. But Society of the Snow is great. It is a riveting film. And Matt, that's when you can actually watch on Netflix right now. And I would definitely advise to check it out, because it's pretty great.
Yeah. Okay. We are coming into the last category that we are going to be covering in especially in this much detail. And we're of course talking about Best Picture. We've got 10 nominees. Here they are: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Now, before we get to your picks, this is interesting because we've got American Fiction, People's Choice Award from the Toronto Film Festival. We've got Anatomy of a Fall, the Palme d'Or from the Cannes Film Festival. Poor Things, which took home the top award at, I want to say, it was either Venice or Berlin.
I think it was Venice.
Was it Venice?
Yeah.
Zone of Interest, which was like second place at Cannes. Past Lives, which was a big, I believe, also an audience winner, or not an audience winner, but an award winner, excuse me, at Sundance. So we've got, a group of films here that have, it's wonderful to see, because, being at the world premiere of American Fiction and now seeing it being nominated here, like, it's nice to see a lot of these films coming full circle. I believe that this is such a strong list of films, and for people who are always like, oh, I'm at home and I don't know what movie I should watch tonight, what should I put on? Here's 10 right here to throw on. don't watch Poor Things with the kids. I'll put that out there right away. This I honestly think, and this isn't recency bias, I think this is probably one of the best picture classes, if you will, that we've had in a while.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. Looking at this list, I mean, there's only one film on here that I think I could replace.
I don't know what that could possibly be. I don't even know what you're talking about. Really?
Gotta keep everybody in suspense.
Keep them in suspense. They'll never guess. They'll never see it coming.
But I agree with you. This is one of those rare years where almost every single one of these films on this list deserve to be on this list, and that does not happen often with Best Picture winners. Winners and films that are just nominated. Like a lot of times, you get 5 that are films that everybody saw. Then you get 5 where people are like, what even is this movie? Like, nobody watched this movie. Like, this was a movie that landed on Best Picture because 5 Academy Award voters got it on screener. Like, it just, that happens a lot. And this is one of the few years where you're like, yeah, these are the best movies of the year. Like, these are some of the best films of the entire year. So,
and the good news, or bad news for you, but the good news there's no Naiad.
There's no Naiad. Yes. There is a Maestro, but there's no Naiad.
Okay. So I will let you kick it off. Who will win? Who would you have voted for? Who should have been nominated?
So I'll try to keep it short. So Oppenheimer will win. I think Oppenheimer is going to take this. It's pretty clear. This is a tough one for me. It's really between Past Lives and Poor Things. When I just think about films that had profound effects on me, I mean, honestly, I could do this with any 2 movies in this list. Like, all of these movies are so good. So I would probably go. It's so tough. I'll stick with my actual list in the way that I had presented it, and I'll stick with Past Lives. I'll say that Past Lives should be is the winner that I want in my heart. Largely because it's just a small film and it's a little engine that could. And the fact that you have a Sundance film showing up at the Oscars at all is pretty phenomenal and virtually unheard of. Hell, even last year with Everything Everywhere All at Once, like you were pushing the limits, releasing it in March. Like that's push it. Like, this doesn't happen. So the fact that Past Lives has made it this far is just phenomenal. So I'd probably pick that one if I got to vote. That would be the one. And then the film I would replace, obviously, I would take out Maestro immediately, and I would replace it with May December. I would.
Your favorite film?
I just, God, that movie, Todd Haynes, you weird genius. I would replace it with May December. So
okay. Now, I wanted to I was thinking about this when we were talking about best international film. I have to say, of course, you're in the States, American journalists, Canadian journalists. They treat American journalists better. I say that because I asked for a screener of Teachers Lounge, and they said, get back to us when it's released. You get it before the festival. So kudos to you. It's interesting. Being at the film festival in Canada, Canadian journalists don't think it gives us screener perks. Sometimes it does, but apparently not as much as I'd like it to.
Listen, to be fair, I really just I took a shotgun to publicists for screeners. Yeah. So I really, it was a numbers game for me, and I kind of just went through the list, and whatever film I saw, I was like, oh, do you have this? 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 Got a ton of no's. So it probably worked in the other way too. You probably got to see some screeners that I mixed. So yeah, because I got that too. I had another friend where I was like, oh man, like they said they didn't have him. And he's like, oh, that's weird. I'm watching it now. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you just don't like me. Got it. All right. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, this time we're going to compare notes. We'll be better. We'll be better prepared. Okay. So for myself, in terms of who will win, Oppenheimer, it's 100% that's going to win. I don't even think it can be contested that the amount of momentum that this film has going into the Academy Awards. I don't feel that we're going to have a La La Land Moonlight situation. And by that, I don't mean a dum-dum like Warren Beatty who tries to screw over a movie. Yeah, I said it. I think more so in terms of the way that all of the awards that night were going, like it looked like La La Land. It's got so much momentum, and then all of a sudden Moonlight pops in and wins Best Picture, and everyone's like pleasantly surprised at that. I don't see an upset happening in this category. I think Oppenheimer is going to take it. There's something to be said in terms of, I mean, Nolan has done a lot for film, and I've said there's two directors. If you hear their name behind an IMAX film, go and see it. The rest of the time, it's usually a money grab. Himself and Denis Villeneuve. I think I as much as Oppenheimer wasn't my favorite film of the year, I did enjoy it. I think it's great. Again, to your point, for people who are like, oh, I didn't like it, focus. If you're locked in on this movie, it's an outstanding piece of film. So
get a bigger screen. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
A bigger screen.
Yeah, don't watch it on your phone. Don't watch it on your tablet.
No.
Don't be like, distracted with everything else in the life that's going on. Lock in on it. And I think that you do those things, you're going to enjoy it. So yeah, Oppenheimer is definitely going to win this. Of course, in terms of if I had a vote, it would be for The Zone of Interest, and I've sang the praises of that movie throughout our conversation tonight. It was, to your point, the same way May December was your favorite film last year. The Zone of Interest was the one that I can't stop talking about, that I was very impressed by. But if I had to say, okay, Keith, okay, we know you love The Zone of Interest, give me another movie instead of that one, it would 100% be Anatomy of a Fall. I was really impressed with that film, because you go in thinking you're going in about a movie about a couple, and like, how did he die? Was he pushed? Did he jump? What have you? And as you go through the movie, I can't speak for you. That didn't matter as much. Mm-hmm. I was more so just captivated by Sandra Hüller's performance, by the storytelling. I thought this was just an exceptional film. Like, quickly running through this list here, because we got the time. I think American Fiction was great. Interesting comment, though. It was the TIFF People's Choice Award. We are about to embark on unprecedented territory. For the third year in a row, the Best Picture of the Academy Awards did not go through the Toronto Film Festival. Coda didn't do it. Everything Everywhere All at Once didn't do it. And I'm not going to come and say that TIFF has lost its luster, because I think we're seeing that other film festivals are really stepping up their game. But it's an interesting conversation and I think the programmers are going to get together and start, trying to make sure that their program for the 2024 campaign is strong. Because to me, it's unheard of to be in a world where we're now 3 years in a row where the Best Picture winner didn't go through TIFF. Barbie, I thought, was outstanding. You said a lot of great things about Barbie earlier, and Greta Gerwig, and I'll echo those things. This is a movie that got people out to the theater. It was an event. I remember for pretty much a month straight going to the theater, and you're seeing a sea of pink. And it's just not the GNO, the girls' night out. You're seeing the guys are dressed up in their pink dress shirts. You're seeing, people coming with their grandparents, their aunts, families. And I absolutely loved not only the attendance, because that's wonderful, but the fact that people, for the most part, there were some people who didn't care for the movie, but for the most part, this is a film that connected with audiences. So I think that's outstanding.
We haven't had that experience in so long. Where there is an event. I would argue, not even just from the pandemic, but I would argue Endgame is really the last vestige of event where going to the movies is the event. And we have not had that in probably 4 or 5 years. And then here comes Barbie, that just it excites people and it drives them in droves to the theater. And I'm such a huge proponent of seeing films in the theater. I go out of my way to do that. Even as somebody who will typically have access to films, and I can watch most movies at home. Like I have that ability, as a critic. But if I can see it in the theater, honestly, I opt to do that. Like I prefer to see films in the theater. So something like Barbie that just drives people of all generations, of all ages, of all preferences, just everything just drives them to the theater to experience this event. That's something really magical for me, and I really enjoy seeing that.
No, absolutely. The holdovers I thought was beautiful. It gave me Scent of a Woman vibes, just in the sense of the relationship between the Paul Giamatti and the Dominic Sessa character. But I thought Alexander Payne hit a home run with that one. Killers of the Flower Moon. Listen, Scorsese still got it. It's a long film, but I appreciate Martin Scorsese coming out and saying, "Hey, you'll go to the theater and that's long." Yeah, but that has an intermission. But that being said, Killers of the Flower Moon is a great film, and the way that it's put together is very strong. It's kind of like I was saying with the De Niro performance. When Martin Scorsese shows up, it's pretty much a guaranteed nomination. He's one of the most respected directors. I don't have a problem with the runtime if you've got me engaged in the movie, and this movie had me engaged. I saw a movie earlier today called Imaginary, which was half of the length of Killers of the Flower Moon, and you're like doing this like throughout most. We're still here? Okay, that's not the case with Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm going to skip over Maestro because that would feel like bullying at this point. But here's the deal. Like I said, Bradley Cooper, I appreciate the fact that he took a lot of time and working on this. Did I find the story overly compelling? Not really. I thought it was a decent film, but I don't necessarily think it was Best Picture worthy. And we'll talk about who I would replace it with in just a moment. Oppenheimer, of course, is going to win. Past Lives is, I call it the most romantic movie of the year. It is heartbreakingly sweet. And for people who are looking at, Valentine's Day or whatever's coming up, what should I watch? Like, throw in Past Lives, not The Notebook. Watch Past Lives. It's such a beautiful film. Softcore porn, aka Poor Things. Listen,
furious jumping, baby, furious jumping.
The first, listen, and I'm sure this has happened to you before. You get a screener for it, and you might put it on later on in the evening, and then you think to yourself, "Why am I doing this to myself? I'm tired." That's what happened to me in the first half hour of this movie. Put it down, came back to it the next day, wide awake watching it, and I enjoyed it. I think Poor Things is a fun, quirky, movie that you have to be comfortable with out of the box thinking, because there's a lot. It's at its core, it's satire, and there's a lot of subtle commentary, maybe not so subtle commentary, that they're dropping in this film. I did enjoy it, and of course, if the zone of interest was a woman, I'd want to have its baby and just take it out and hang out with it, which is a really weird thing to say, but here we are.
It is considering the subject matter.
Considering the subject matter. But yeah, if you could say to me, Keith, you can interview anybody. Of course, Jessica Chastain would be high up on my list, if not my number one. But yeah, I would love to sit down with Jonathan Glazer and have a conversation with him about this film, because I just think it is utterly brilliant. Who would I have liked to have seen been nominated? Origin, I would have liked to have seen, just because I'm such a huge fan of Ava DuVernay, and I think the story was so interesting in terms of like racism versus caste and that whole dialogue. And I think it's kind of like part drama, part documentary, but very, very informative, very interesting, and definitely a film for me that fostered some really good conversation, because there's a lot of interesting points that are made in that film. And I think Ava DuVernay is a great filmmaker, whether it's films that we've seen like Selma, or whether it's that Netflix series When They See Us. Off the top of my head, I've yet to see something that Ava DuVernay's done that I haven't enjoyed. So I'm a big fan. But the other film that I would have loved to have seen in this, and I referenced it earlier, it was All of Us Strangers. I was really impressed with that film. Another independent movie. Again, we don't need like the $100 million budget to impress me. And one of those films where you kind of think, it's going, you understand what's happening, and then it kind of gives you a very interesting M. Night Shyamalan type twist. So I was also a big fan of that, because I think at the core of that movie, it's talking about grief, which is something that we've all, a lot of us have had to deal with in life. And I think it really captured the essence of that. But that would be my 2 cents on Best Picture.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great breakdown. I wish I loved All of Us Strangers as much as everybody else. I found that film really hard to access. And that's saying a lot because Passages made like my top 15. So
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the subject. I don't know. I found that movie to be whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with, kind of the breakdown of all of these. I think, like you said, this is a collection of great films.
Yeah.
And that's rare that we
Mhm.
have that where, somebody says, oh, what should I watch? And you're like, here's 9 great films that you can check out.
For those joining, do not adjust your set. There are 10 films on the list, but we do not acknowledge Maestro.
I know I've been bullying that film all night long. I'll say this quickly. Look, Bradley Cooper clearly has talent behind the camera. He is a good director. The problem I have with Maestro is he is following in the footsteps of some of the most pretentious directors working today, and he hasn't earned the right to be pretentious. And I would say that in terms of like Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve. These are pretty pretentious filmmakers. Like Tenet is the most up my own ass type of film you could possibly make. But Christopher Nolan, personally, I think Christopher Nolan has earned the right to be up his own ass. Like he has worked very hard in creating great cinema to just start believing his own hype. He shouldn't, but he does, and that's and so to me, it feels like Bradley Cooper is trying to emulate people that have these decades of experience to get to where they are to create these types of things, and create these big sprawling narratives that have a little bit of a demand of your attention to really access and shroud things in mystery and intercut things and try to build stories in kind of a non-linear fashion. And I just don't think he's there yet. He has the talent to get there. I'm not saying he doesn't, but this film just felt like somebody watched Denis Villeneuve and watched Christopher Nolan and was like, I'm gonna do that on my second film. And it's like, bro, no. That is not how that works at all. I just went through all of Villeneuve's filmography. I promise you, he did not start his second film. His second film was Maelstrom. He did not start with Maestro as his second film. Like it took him almost a decade to make a great film. So, let's slow the roll, man. I know you want it, but like let's slow the roll a little bit.
Okay. We are going to jump over to Matt because why wouldn't we? Should win Oppenheimer or Poor Things. Will win Oppie. Look at we've already got a cute nickname. And would have voted for Killers because of Marty, because he's a stan.
The Marty stan. I love it.
Yeah. All right. And that's fair. Okay. I want to ask you. So we've gone through what we consider to be the major awards, some costume designers at home. What about costume design? Okay. So what I wanted to ask you was, out of the other awards that are going to be handed out, is there a particular award that you're looking forward to, or a race that you're really interested in?
Yeah, I have. I'm very interested in the screenplay categories.
Okay.
Both adapted and original.
Okay.
I think there's some category fraud going on there.
Okay.
But I think those races are actually really compelling. I think there's some fantastic adapted screenplays. I think as we talk about some of these movies that mirror the best picture, particularly when we get into like original, you have things like Anatomy of a Fall. You have things like Past Lives. You have some of the great films of the year that have been entered. You have Made December there in its lone nomination. So it's a really hotly contested category. Probably one of the hottest contested categories, in my opinion. And then you have adapted, which I think will probably still be Oppenheimer, but I don't think it should be. And I would actually pull for something like American Fiction, which I think adapts Erasure significantly better than Oppenheimer, adapts whatever the book is that he adapted. But the screenplay noms are two that I'm very, very interested in. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what that looks like.
So I didn't prepare slides for these, but I'll run through the nominees really quickly for both. So we'll start with original. We've got Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. I think personally, that Anatomy of a Fall takes that one. because it has to get an award somewhere, in my opinion. But how do you feel that when playing out? Do you think May December has a chance?
No,
Okay.
no, it
Okay.
should, because
Fair.
it's a phenomenal script.
Yeah.
But I mean, so is Past Lives. But I
Mm,
agree with you. I think this is where Anatomy of a Fall takes its win.
okay.
I think the Academy probably really loves that script a lot,
Yeah.
even more than The Holdovers, which I think probably feels more like the winner when you talk about what the writing branch of the Academy would want to win. But I agree. I think this is an Anatomy win.
Yeah.
It's lone Anatomy a win. I'd love for it to be May December or Past Lives or something like that, but I don't think that'll happen.
Can you imagine if it was Maestro? Oh my goodness, I could hear you throwing things at your set. Okay.
Didn't we just talk about category fraud? Didn't we just talk about category fraud? God.
For adapted screenplay, American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. I was pleasantly surprised to see The Zone of Interest nominated. That being said, I do think American Fiction gets this. Cora Jefferson was kind of like obviously the surprise of the Toronto Film Festival, and it's a fun film. But how do you see this one playing out?
I think if there's going to be an upset for Oppenheimer in a category where people think it's going to sweep, I think this is where it is.
Okay.
I think this is where it maybe stumbles a little bit. And I would not be surprised if American Fiction does sneak up and take this one. It has a lot of momentum in this adaptation category, which is why I'm so intrigued by it. That's why both of these categories are so interesting to me. So I do think that this is probably where American Fiction steals one from Oppenheimer.
Okay.
I think that's probably what will happen.
Now, for myself, the award that I'm really looking forward to outside of the big ones, and this is, I can't say I've ever looked forward to this category before, but it's sound.
Ooh,
I'll
I wonder why.
yeah, I'll go through the I am such a sure thing here for Zone of Interest. We got The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. The reason why I would love to see this is, like, for example, we just went through a category with screenplay. I don't think, I'm not co-signing The Zone of Interest on that category in any way, shape, or form. I fully would want to see Cord Jefferson win it. The reason why I'm a big fan of The Zone of Interest for this category is I fundamentally believe that there are two movies at play here. I said before, there's the movie that you see, and then there's the movie that you hear. The first 3 minutes of the film, you are faced with a black screen. And you watch this and you're like, okay, there have been screenings where people are getting out to go, like, hey, there's something wrong with the film, right? Because like, what's going on?
I thought that when I stumbled in a tip, I was like, did they mess this up? Like, this is
yeah, exactly. But what you're experiencing here is that Jonathan Glazer is preparing the audience to just rely on their sense of hearing, their sense of sound, and being able to take in what they're hearing. And there's so many aspects of this movie where there are things that are happening over the fence that you have to hear. So really quickly, for the people who aren't familiar with this, because I feel like I've been talking about this movie all night, I make no apologies. The Zone of Interest is about this family, the commandant of the Auschwitz concentration camp, and they live right next door to the camp. You don't see any violence whatsoever on screen, but you hear things in the background, which is why I think the sound of this movie is so important. Now, I have said to people, hey, I'm going to see Oppenheimer. My soundbite was, go see it in IMAX. Otherwise, you're really wasting 3 hours, because you need to see it in IMAX. And one of the aspects of that is the booming sound that comes with it. It's incredible. But again, I come back to, we've got the overwhelming $200 million budget versus like the $10-50 million budget. I think The Zone of Interest was able to accomplish a lot with the sound in that film. I think the sound is its own character. And sound is very important in film. It always has been, no more so prevalent here. So that's why I think sound for me is definitely a category that I'm going to be watching closely.
It's an interesting category, and I agree with you. I think those two movies rely on sound the most. And I think this is, again, when we talk about a category where Oppenheimer could lose, this is one of them, and I think it would lose to Zone of Interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Matt coming in, production design, Barbie or Poor Things. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
Ooh.
So, I mean, he's got the right two.
Coming in hot,
you know?
Matt. Coming in hot.
He has got the right two.
He does.
Those are the two. I mean, I'll read out the nominees in fairness. Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, remember that movie? Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. So here's the thing. Leaving the theater, I thought to myself in terms of production design, and again, this is in my mind, it was like, okay, it's got to be Barbie. This is like the production design of this movie is absolutely incredible. They've created a whole different world here, and coming out of it, whenever I saw that July 20th and the 19th, whatever that day was in 2023, I would have gone with Barbie. But then I saw Poor Things, and then I flipped. So if I had a vote, it would be Poor Things for production design.
Yeah, I shout out to you, Matt. You really did pick the right two. Those are
100%.
the two clear front runners for the best production design, especially because Asteroid City isn't anywhere to be found. So I think I'm gonna have to go with you on this one. Barbie, it sports some just absolutely gorgeous production design. The way that they bring all those things to life. But this would have been. Barbie would have been my number one pick. Doesn't matter what film I saw after it, until I saw Poor Things, and I was like, "Holy shit! That's how you build a production. Like that's how you build a world, and that's how you do it practically. You mix your digital effect. Like this is clear production. So yeah, I think Poor Things will take this.
I feel that Oscar ballots and Oscar leagues, what do you call it? Like they will be won and lost on this category. This is one of those categories that's gonna, you talk about like March Madness ripping up your bracket. This is gonna be one that you could be neck and neck with somebody, but this is one that you're gonna be able to take the lead on.
For sure, that's a great one.
Yeah, I'm just scanning through some of the other nominees. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a great night for Barbie. I think Barbie will win costume design. Just to go through the nominees for that one, we've got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I think costume design could be one that Barbie wins.
Yeah. And I think the movies that are going to suffer, and I know I keep shitting on this film, but I think the films that are going to suffer the most this on Sunday are going to be not Poor Things. I'm sorry, going to be Barbie, going to be Killers of the Flower Moon, and going to be Maestro. I think those three films they have a pretty decent amount of nominations. Like they're contenders in a lot of categories, and outside of like a lone win for Killers for Gladstone. I think Maestro blinks out in every category it's nominated for. Yeah, I think it blinks out completely. And while Barbie has the strongest case in costume, I think it can still lose. I think there is a chance here that one of the most nominated films of the year will basically blank.
Yeah. So who do you like in costume design?
Read them again.
Of course. Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things.
So I think Poor Things might actually be able to sneak in here.
Okay.
And here's the thing though. The Academy, they don't mind giving costume design awards to suits. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't really, especially if you're creating kind of that nostalgic old-timey Hollywood vibe. Which is why I think even Oppenheimer has a shot here. It shouldn't, but I like there's but things like they like things like Napoleon. Those are the other types of things where you do these period pieces and you kind of recreate old-timey worlds. They tend to prefer that over the whimsical, fantastical kind of styles when it comes to costume design. So I mean, I could honestly, I could see Napoleon winning here, which is just, I can't even believe that just came out of my mouth. But I think Poor Things has a pretty good shot. And against all odds, I think this could be a weird category where Oppenheimer wins for absolutely no reason other than it's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, bringing back the fedora. Like I can't see why Oppenheimer would win this. I would have a stronger argument for Napoleon because I don't necessarily think there was anything like overly exciting about the costumes in Oppenheimer, but it's interesting. You say you think that Maestro is going to blank, and I'm going to take you to makeup and hairstyling, where I'm actually picking Maestro to win in this one. We've got Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. So I think if Maestro is going to win, it's going to be win an award. It's going to be in this category. You can make an argument for the makeup and they say hairstyling, but for whatever reason, I always tend to focus on the makeup part. But you could definitely make a strong argument for Oppenheimer in this one, as well as Poor Things. I don't think Golda or Society of the Snow is going to get the traction to win, but in this category, who are you liking? If it's not Maestro,
I think if it's not Maestro, it's Oppenheimer or Poor Things.
Okay,
and I think Poor Things has some pretty solid hair and makeup work.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even what they do with Willem Dafoe is
yes.
It might be too creepy and it might be too weird for them, but like if we're talking makeup, what Willem Dafoe is doing is better than the fake nose that Bradley Cooper is doing in Maestro. They're not one and the same. And look, you can talk about Golda all you want, but like they're literally the same thing. Like they're the exact same makeup. Like what are we talking about here? So I agree with you that this is, if it's going to have a shot anywhere, it's here. My prop bet is that Maestro goes home with nothing.
All right, you've heard it here first. Okay, Matt is asking best score: Goranson for Oppenheimer or posthumous Robbie Robertson? Good point. Or John Williams Career Award. So very good question. So let me break down score. We've got nominees coming in from American Fiction. We've got again, as you mentioned, John Williams for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Robbie Robertson, longtime collaborator with Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon. Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, and we've also got a nomination for Poor Things. Again, I think he's touched on the right three. I mean, I don't know that they're gonna want to recognize, or not want to recognize, but they're gonna recognize the passing of Robbie Robertson with an Oscar. I mean, if respectfully, we saw Chadwick Boseman with all of this momentum coming into the Oscars, then all of a sudden Anthony Hopkins, who didn't even show up to the event, walks away with Best Actor. So I don't think the passing is going to have as much weight as it did when Heath Ledger, passed away. So for that reason, I think Robbie Robertson might be out. They're at the point now where they're kind of, making a joke, as they did last year, of how many times John Williams has won versus how many times he's lost. I personally think that for score, it's going to go to Oppenheimer. Matt brings up very strong points for the other ones, but how do you see it playing out?
I would very much like to see Robertson get this. I think this was a tough year for score. Because there's just not a lot of good ones. And I like John Williams. I saw him live at the Hollywood Bowl. And he clearly has an incredible scoring career. I think Dial of Destiny is some of his worst work. It's just there's not only nothing memorable about the film itself, but the score doesn't even save it. Like I couldn't hum a single tune from that. So I think, I think Poor Things does actually have a pretty solid score. But I agree. I think this is where Oppenheimer wins again. And I think it'll go to Göransson.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's interesting because I even look at, like, we're talking music here. I even look at the best song category, and there's been years where we've had like powerful songs, coming out of movies like Selma and movies like A Star Is Born. Like these are like great songs. I just wasn't wowed by the songs this year. I think that the Billie Eilish one's going to win, but again, it's nothing that I'm overly excited about. It's not like, oh, I can't wait for that performance. that performance comes on, it's like, oh great, I got time to run to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Y'all gotta stop nominating the saddest songs in all the movies. Like, if you're gonna nominate half of Barbie's soundtrack, where the hell is Dua Lipa? That is a banger of a song. That song represents the movie. It was written specifically for this film. And if you want people to watch your show that aren't, cinephiles, and you're trying to capitalize on a younger generation, nominating Dua Lipa and getting her to perform Dance the Night Away at the Oscars is infinitely better than watching sad Billie Eilish sitting at a piano playing What Was I Made For? Like, what are we doing here? I don't understand the logic of that. And like, I know we're going to get an I'm Just Ken, and that's great. Like, that's super fun. But like, y'all got to have more fun with these songs. You just have to. Like, I remember the year where they opened with Justin Timberlake. And I was like, what? How in the world are you opening your show with this song, and then you're just gonna pretend it doesn't exist in the like what? Why do you not like fun? What is happening?
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you?
All right, okay. Matt is coming in with. Okay, are you ready to clap for this one? Somebody who writes a fantastic blog was recapping the nominees, and I believe her quote was, "Diane Warren must be stopped." And, and again, she's not wrong, and that's that's not wrong here. I mean, we got Diane Warren coming in
every year. Every year, it's 4 nominees and Diane
Warren. Yeah, here we go. The Meryl Streep of Best Song. I don't know about that. We like Meryl Streep, though. We like Meryl Streep.
It is a good line, though.
100% it is. 100% it is.
That's very
funny. She absolutely needs to be stopped. She's out of control. Like, there's some nominees that you see like all the time, like Sandy Powell for like costume design. Sandy Powell seems cool. She seemed like, if I was at the governor's ball, I'd be like, hey Sandy, what's up? Diane Warren, we'd be like, do you want me to sing you a song? Nah, I'm good.
I'm
good.
All right.
I'm all right.
We get it. The Oscars love you. Like,
let me ask you about this category. Best documentary feature. And let me as I'm flipping screens around here, let me read out the nominees to you. We've got Bobby Wine, The People's President, The Eternal Memory, 4 Daughters, To Kill a Tiger, and 20 Days in Mariupol. I think it goes to 20 Days in Mariupol, but I have to say I did find 4 Daughters to be pretty interesting. And I don't mean interesting in terms of, oh, that meatloaf was interesting. Like, no, I thought it was a decent film, and I thought it was very interesting how they filmed it. What did you like in this category?
Yeah, I never understand what happens with documentary. I watch a ton of documentaries throughout the year, and then every year I just throw out whatever I think is the best one and whatever my top 5 are, because it's never going to line up with what they do in that documentary branch. Like, they are on their own mountain, and like they just I remembered when the nominees came out, and I was like, what even are these films? Like, who has seen To Kill a Tiger? Nobody knows this movie exists. What is happening? So I do think it's going to go to 20 Days in Mariupol. I think that film is just, I remember when I saw it at Sundance, and I needed a moment. Like, I needed to turn my laptop off for a second. I needed to just really recoup I think it's just an incredibly powerful, poignant, relevant, everything that goes into what documentary filmmaking is. It is your firsthand account of experiencing a city in agony at the beginning of war, which is just something that I don't think anybody else has done. So I would give this to 20 Days. I think it's the very clear winner. A documentary I can't believe is missing, and it barely scratched the surface, is Beyond Utopia. Beyond Utopia, I couldn't believe that movie was just basically shut out from almost all of the precursors and the and 20 Days were 2 of the most powerful documentaries I watched in 2023.
I thought you were going to mention the one that I was surprised wasn't nominated, which was still a Michael J. Fox story.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
I know the documentary branch doesn't really care for like biopic documentaries,
yeah,
but that one in particular, that was just a stunning piece of work. Like
yeah.
he's such a beloved guy, and I think the way that they treated his career and kind of allowed him to retell his life, I think it was a super powerful documentary. I would have loved to have seen it on this list. I
Hmm.
didn't bank on it showing up largely because I know that branch. If there's one thing I do know about the branch, it's those types of films typically don't make it no matter how beloved they are.
Yeah,
But yeah, Beyond Utopia was probably the most baffling miss
yeah.
for me. I don't know what it was about that film that people didn't like. I mean,
Hmm.
you're literally getting firsthand accounts and firsthand footage of North Korea and people fleeing North Korea and the journey they have to take. Like, how do you not go on that journey with them? Like, it's so yeah. I couldn't believe that film missed. Couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
No, 100%. I agree with you. I thought it was great. Visual effects. Matt coming in saying, "Can we talk?" Yes, Matt. I think we've established whatever you want to talk about. We're going to go on we are definitely going to go on the journey with you. Can we talk about Neil Corbould being nominated for 3 films for visual effects? I don't know if that's ever happened before. I can't tell you if it's ever happened before, Matt. I can tell you what's happening now. We've got 5 nominees for visual effects. They are The Creator, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. And to Matt's point, Neil Corbould pops up on the list of visual effects nominees for The Creator. He also was there for Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and he's also there for Napoleon. All of that being said, Derek, I want to get your pick. I'm actually predicting Godzilla -1 for this one to win. And it's interesting because out of all of the iterations of Godzilla movies in the years and years we've seen Godzilla movies, this is the first time a Godzilla movie has been nominated for an Academy Award. I thought this film was great. I really enjoyed it. And I think it wins. And that would make, if I'm right, that would make Neil 0 for 3 in the same year in the same category. So I want to thank, I'm not going to act like I knew that Neil was nominated for those 3. So Matt, thank you for bringing that to us. But yeah, that's I don't know that anyone's ever been nominated for 3 things in the same category before. Like, for example, with even from an acting standpoint, we've talked about actors being nominated twice in the same year. Like I said, this year, Sandra Hüller should have been for Zone of Interest as well. But
Yeah.
I go back to the year that Pacino won. Pacino won for Scent of a Woman, but he was also nominated that same year for Glengarry Glen Ross.
Right.
And I'm sure there's other times they're just not coming to me right now.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen a situation where, so for example, had it been released, in time, we weren't going to see Coleman Domingo nominated for Rustin as well as for Sing Sing. It would be, okay, which one are you submitting?
Yeah.
Right. So we don't usually see that. To see somebody nominate, I don't even think Diane Warren's pulled off 2 songs in a year. I could be wrong. But this is quite the accomplishment. Like, when they're doing the Oscar cast photo, class photo of all the nominees, like he should be able to be able to go and run and go in different positions. Like, this is fantastic. Visual effects. Where do you see that going?
So I would love a Godzilla -1 win here. I think that would just be awesome for one of not just the best Godzilla movie, but one of the best movies of the year. And I say that as somebody who generally doesn't care for kaiju films. It's just not really my thing. And I think anybody involved in Godzilla X Kong should probably be pretty embarrassed. I think you should be wearing the cone of shame because Godzilla -1 exists. So I do think that that's the film that should win. I hesitate to say that it will, because this is typically not a category where you see international visual effects teams make their way into the nominations period, let alone win over American cinema. That's not how it should be, but I do get the sense that that's probably how it's going to be.
No,
so
absolutely.
If I had to pick, I think it's probably between The Creator and Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Okay.
The Creator is a whatever of a film. I actually didn't care for it at all. However, visually, it is stunning. The visual effects in that movie are. I wouldn't be as down as I am on the film overall. I would not be upset if it won for the one thing it does very, very well, which is its visual effects. Its visual effects are stunning. So I think it'd be a 2-horse race between those two. My heart would jump if Godzilla -1 managed to stomp on all of them. That would just be incredible. But I think the race is really between the Creator and Guardians 3.
Okay. Yeah. So it'll be a very interesting one to check out. Matt is letting us know that Barry Fitzgerald, 1944, nominated for actor and supporting actor in the same year for Going My Way.
Oh,
Hang on a second. He was nominated for the same film? Like hang on.
Gonna Google it.
I'm like trying to I understand somebody being nominated for 2 nominations, so actor and supporting in the same year. Yeah, but yeah, this Joker that's interesting.
Well, 1944 was the Wild West.
It really was. It really was. I am telling you, we need to put Matt on retainer coming in with all this knowledge. That is very interesting.
That's really funny. I'm gonna have to watch this movie now.
Yeah, apparently. Okay. Any other categories? Let me take a quick scan here.
I think we've done almost all of them at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about cinematography, but I think Oppenheimer, I think you tend to agree with that. Okay. Yeah. All right. Derrick, before we end this, question, he's like, Matt's like, please don't, not worth your time. Okay. Question for you. How can the good people follow you? Because you're putting out a lot of cool stuff. Your content, I'm a big fan of it, which is why I'm like, hey, come do this with me. So how can people get in touch with you and see your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys can follow me on most social medias at DRock Comedy. It's DROK Comedy. That goes for like Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads. So you can follow me on all there. I am still on Facebook, so just search my name, Derrick Murray, and you'll find me there. And then if you want to read any of my articles, any of my content, any of my reviews, all of them are usually put up on nerdbot.com. You can usually do like, if you want to get like just the list of me, you can just do Derrick Murray Nerdbot, and it'll come up with an author page, and it'll basically have everything I've ever written for the site. So you can definitely do that. And then if you just want to watch like quick blurbs and quick reviews that don't have like full pieces, definitely follow me on Letterboxd. This year, I'm kind of dedicating the year to filling in some blind spots of movies that I feel like I should have seen that I haven't. So I'm really just trying to go through all the decades, all the directors, all the performers, and just really kind of getting a collection of overall cinema over the last 100 years or so. So lots of really fun stuff. I can't review all of those pieces. So I do, quick reviews on Letterboxd as well. So
excellent. I have to tell you, I've gotten into Letterboxd. I found out, we talked about this before, embarrassingly, I was doing it wrong for about a year. Now I've corrected that. But my Letterboxd is like myself. It's a work in progress. And of course, you can see my stuff over at ottawalife.com as well as whittier.com. And we'll drop all of this in the comments so you can come and properly find us. I know that after the Oscars, I'm going to jump on and do a live reaction. If you're available, Derrick, would love to have you jump on with me and kind of like, bring this loop through. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to check this out, whether you're in for a little bit or whether you're like our Stan Matt, who was in it from beginning, middle, and end. Matt, we really appreciate you being here, and thank you for the amazing questions and comments throughout. Derrick, an honor sharing this with you.
Blast, man.
I absolutely. I am a complete nerd because I am so excited for the Oscars. The Academy dropped an ad today, which you might have seen, showcasing the Best Picture nominees, and I'm watching that, and I'm just kind of like,
yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
man. I'm so pumped for it, and it was probably the only time I saw multiple clips of Maestro and I wasn't like disappointed. But anyways, I am super pumped for the Academy Awards. There's some people who look at it, and I'll always go back to something somebody said to me years ago, which was, I don't need the Academy to tell me what movies I should like, and that's fair. My favorite movie of all time, there's a poster of it hanging here in my office, is Heat. Heat had 0 Academy Award nominations. Sure. Shawshank Redemption, a movie that is widely regarded as a lot of people's, on people's top 10 list, did not win Academy Awards. Sometimes it's you like what you like, and I totally respect that. To me, the Academy Awards is about a celebration of film and kind of seeing a lot of these films on their journey. So the like I said, respectfully, the red carpet stuff has never been of interest to me. I'm interested to see whose hard work will pay off, and I guess also, if we're being honest, whose campaigning was the best. Anyway, regardless, it's still gonna be an exciting night, and I'm looking forward to it.
I have the same sentiment. Just real quick, I have the same.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
this is the celebration of movie for people who love movies, for people who work on movies, and one of the things that I really wish the Oscars would probably pay attention to more. If I could say anything to the Academy, anything to the production of the Oscars, make the Oscars for us. We're the ones that are here. We're the ones that have spent 2 hours talking about the nominations, talking about the movies. We're the ones that are going to show up and watch the entire show. We're the ones that are going to talk about it afterwards. We're the ones that are going to talk about it for a week. Stop making the Oscars for people that don't care about the Oscars. Stop. They're never going to care. So make it for us, and we will keep your show afloat. And we will be there with bells on every year, and just keep doing that, because that's really what it is. It's about the love of film. It's about celebrating the film. It's about, for people like us who have spent the entire year watching these movies, experiencing these movies, talking about these movies, now get to see them get rewarded and see people talk about their experiences and how they made the films and what it means to them. And that stuff is just exciting. I'm here for the movies, and that's what I love about it. So
love it.
Anyways, all right, I'm done.
Oh, no, it's all good. Listen, if you've enjoyed spending time with us tonight, guess what? You get to do it again on Sunday night. You heard it here. Breaking news. We are going to be here after the Academy Awards doing a recap. It won't be 2 hours long or whatever time this has been. It'll be a decently sized recap, and we would love it for you to join us. So thank you so much, Derrick. Thank you so much for the time. It's been great chopping it up with you tonight, and look forward to Oscar Sunday and chatting with you again.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Good night, everybody.